Well, hello again. I haven't seen you in forever. It's so nice to see you.
No, it's been crazy. I know you've been going through a lot.
Yeah,
It's good to see you.
you too. Um, so I wanted just to start off by asking you of when your journey started, and if you'd like to talk about who it involved, whatever you are good with sharing.
I've been kind of thinking a lot about it since I agreed to talk with you. And I think um, I've probably been grieving most of my life. I mean, I'm 46 and I've a lot of loss, a lot of trauma, things like that. I think I've just been grieving loss since I can remember. Um, from a very young age, I had attended a lot of funerals. And I can't even remember why. I think because my aunt that I spent a lot of time with, she would take me to funerals very frequently. But also, my parents were divorced when I was 5. Um, I lost a lot of time with my real dad, so just a lot of loss. But since I can remember, I've probably been grieving and did not realize that's what it was until just recently.
And I think that's a big thing about grief that a lot of people just assume it's like the loss of someone.
Mhm. Yeah.
Grief can be the loss of a friendship, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a job,
Yeah.
so I think I'd be shocked to hear anyone say that they've never dealt with some sort of grief before.
Right.
Um, Obviously, some grief, I'm not gonna say is worse than others because I don't ever want to diminish someone's
No,
feelings,
no, no.
but you know what I mean.
Right. It's all different. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's grief is different. And it's just like, we all handle trauma differently. What's traumatic for one person may not be traumatic for somebody else. And so um, we all handle grief differently. And as a matter of fact, when you were first talking about this, I was like, yeah, I'm probably not the right person to talk about grief because um, I internalize it a lot and I don't like to express grief because I don't know how to handle grief. I'm not
Mhm.
great at handling grief. Um, but lo and behold, 2 days after you messaged us and asked, one of my dearest friends that, I mean, she died of COVID and I just lost it. Like, I think I had years, probably years of just pent up grief that I had not resolved and dealt with. And when my dad died 6 years ago, I had to be strong for my mom. And when my favorite cousin, her favorite cousin died, I had to be strong for her. And so this was the first loss I've had in a long time that hit me
Mhm.
especially hard. And I just cried. I think I screamed. I think I just felt all the emotions. And we did a she was cremated, but we did a memorial for her yesterday. And I didn't want to leave. I mean, I stayed like 3 hours. I just didn't want to leave. But yeah, that's been the hardest loss in a long time. And I was telling somebody, I've only known her 6 years, but when I met her, I knew we were related, but I never knew her growing up. But the moment I met her, I knew that she was special and that she was a kindred spirit. And so it just was a hard loss. But I too think I just was able to deal with that, um, and finally let out some of that grief that I've been holding for a long time.
What do you think made this the breaking point?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm just tired. I'm just, after so many years of holding on to it, you just get tired um, of trying to be strong. And um, it was very sudden. She was sick. We knew she was sick, but the day before they were stepping her down out of ICU. She was doing great. And and then the next thing I know, her daughter is asking for recordings so that she can play them for her, like saying our last goodbyes. And it was just unbelievable, how fast it happened. So I think that may have been it, that I was hopeful. I was feeling hope that she'd be okay. And then out of nowhere, she passed. So it was just hard.
Have you been able to find anything that kind of helps heal your heart a little bit? I know it's hard.
Well, yeah, it was very cool. It was a very cool experience. I've been journaling. So for Christmas, my daughter gave me an early Christmas present, and I love fountain pens.
Yeah.
And I love but she got me like a legit fountain pen from like with a quill and everything. You have to dip it in ink and write with it. And I've just had the most fun. She got me this kind of old timey journal, and I've just committed every day I'm going to write a little bit. And so that's been very cathartic. But her daughter also asked us, I recorded the message, and I tried to be upbeat, and I told her she had to pull through. And so that helped a lot to have that, to be able to say goodbye to her. But they buried her urn in like this box, this sealed plastic box. And her daughter asked us to give mementos, like just to put a memento in there. And I just wrote a note on my old fashioned paper with my fountain pen and just told her, how much I loved her and how grateful I was for her. And I don't accept love very well. Like I don't accept love very well, but she loved in a way that I could receive it. And so a loss like that is really hard.
Yeah.
And so I just told her all that. She'd never read it, but I wrote it, and I folded it up and I put it in her box. So it was a little way for me to, express the way I felt. So that was healing, but in time, when I stay busy with my job, I think that helps.
Yeah.
To not be able to focus on it so much, but and just allow myself to be upset about it. When it comes, I don't try to force it back. I just allow myself to feel it.
And I think that's the biggest, that's the hardest struggle. I know with me, I had a hard time of allowing myself to feel my feelings. And it took a long time for me to be like, you feel these feelings for a reason.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And no one can tell you that they're silly. No one can tell you that you should feel that way. No one should tell you that you're being silly.
Right.
They're not going through what you're going through.
Right. Oh yeah. And I remember, I started counseling, I was probably 17 years old. And then when I got to college, I found an amazing therapist, and she had to like stop me and force me to feel the emotions. Cause people who know me now, they're like, what? you were not able to cry? I'm like, no, I refused. It was almost like she saw it as a challenge, I think, for me to get me to cry. And I was like, nope, you messed with the wrong one. But she did. And she was able to get me to feel those feelings that I had kept pent up, I think, for so long. So now I have no problem. I have no problem showing how I feel, which is sometimes a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. People don't know how to deal with that. People don't know how to deal with somebody that just shares everything, or shares how they feel.
And I think that's a big part of why I wanted to do this, is because people don't know how to react to
grief,
to our feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember, I'm a social worker, and I've often applied for jobs as like a hospice worker or social worker with hospice. And I'm glad I didn't get it, because I don't know that I could handle it. But just watching my dad, he was in hospice for a few days, maybe a couple weeks. And I did the reading, like I knew exactly what to look for. I knew so that I could prepare my mom, so I didn't do it to prepare myself. I read all the literature, what was going to look like when he started, when he was on his last days, and the organ failure and all of that. And so I kept it very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very formal and very, just to keep from feeling it, because I knew I couldn't show that emotion in front of my mom because she was already going through so much.
Was it
So
your
yeah.
dad or your stepdad?
Well, he was my
Not, I mean, not that it matters,
he
but
adopted me. No,
okay.
he adopted me when I was 11. When he and my mom got married, he adopted me. So,
Okay.
being by all legal purposes, he was my dad.
Yeah.
Now I have my bio dad, who is I never know where he is from one day to the next. He's an alcoholic, is in bad health. So while I know he's alive, there's still that, that loss of that relationship. He'll say he'll be somewhere and he never shows up. So there's just, I know I can't trust him or rely on him.
Yeah.
My girls, I tell my daughters, you can't rely on him. If he says he's going to be at your birthday party, don't count on it, kind of thing. So, and that's been since I think they were divorced when I was 5, but he was a pretty crappy human before that. So,
Yeah.
it's been a long, since I can remember, I've been dealing with hard stuff, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I think, I believe wholeheartedly I was allowed to go through those things so that I could help other people and that I could minister to people that were going through the same thing. So, and not even from a spiritual standpoint, but just from a social work position and just a human position. So I don't regret any of it. Like I don't regret anything I've been through. It's just, still it's hard. You have to process it, deal with it, all of that. But yeah, he was my stepdad, but he adopted me. So he was dad.
Yeah. Before your friend passed away, what were your feelings on grief? Like, you didn't think about it a lot, so it wasn't like, did you ever talk to your daughters about like, have they gone through something where they would?
Yeah, I mean, my oldest is 20, my youngest is 17. Their papa, my husband's dad, died Christmas morning, probably 15
Really?
years ago.
Oh,
Yeah, no, Christmas morning, 15 years ago. And my 17-year-old, she'll tell you I really don't cry. Like she doesn't cry. She doesn't experience grief. My oldest, when I told her that Betty White died, she she broke down. So she's very comfortable sharing her grief. Because we'd always said if anything happened to Betty White, we'd be in mourning for a few days. But she's just very tenderhearted, and not that my 17-year-old is not. She's just different, she has
yeah.
a different, but I don't think you can prepare people for it. I don't think you can teach people how to grieve. Everybody's personality is so different. They're gonna do it however is comfortable for them.
Did anyone say anything to you during that time where you were like, oh, okay, that makes sense? Or you were like, why are you even saying this to me right now?
During the time that she passed, or
That your
when?
friend passed, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, people were, gentle, and people were compassionate. And my oldest, they were like, Mom, you lost somebody that you cared about. You can't, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to feel grief. And my youngest, who is not super affectionate and is not super, they're just different. She hugged me. So that was, it was, doesn't even usually have to be words. It's just, how you interact with somebody when they're hurting. But I got good support. I didn't have anybody say, well, she was just a friend, or, anything crazy like that.
Yeah.
But too, my mom, they were best friends growing up, cousins, but, really good friends. And then they were connected. And it's really weird how, I had never met her before my dad went into hospice, and she was there visiting someone else at the hospital, and she recognized my mom, and it was like an instant connection. You know, they reconnected, and her gift, her ministry really was being there, sitting with people at the hospital, and sitting with people when they were in, you know, hard times, and she was there every day. I remember she was there every single day, and when I would go, I couldn't wait to hang out with her, you know, because even though we were grieving, she was funny. Um I'm not always the holiest, godliest person, and I struggle with that, but she loved me. Like she didn't judge me, she didn't condemn me if I lost my temper, or said a cuss word. She never judged me, but she would, you know, gently chastise me, but never judge me. And so I think that's why it's such a loss, is because when you find somebody you can be your entire real self and not feel any condemnation, it's hard because there's not a lot of people like that in your life. That, and I imagine, you know, I just always imagine I'm the worst of the worst. So, you know, to find somebody that loves me like that is amazing, you know, but I know it's not true. I've got some
It's
great
not.
qualities, but I do. I loved her. I mean, I just never felt any condemnation. It was amazing. She loved going in the woods. I love going in the woods. We'd go trekking together, and it was just amazing, you know, so it's gonna be hard not to have that. Um, so yeah, it's a loss. I mean, it's definitely a loss. Um,
I
and
found it
losing her.
interesting when you first came on. You said, I've only known her for 6 years. I
Yeah.
think like you could meet someone a month ago.
Oh yeah.
They could be, you know, you could be closer to them than someone you've known all your life.
Absolutely.
So I don't think time
Absolutely.
really makes a difference how long you
Doesn't.
see.
It doesn't, but you know, it was a small outdoor. We just met at the graveside and had like a little graveside service. And there were sisters there, there were brothers there, nieces, nephews. And I felt almost like I didn't belong, because I really, you know, we had only known each other for a short time, but the impact that she had on my life I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So I say just 6 years, but, um, and it wasn't every day we talked, you know, it wasn't even probably every month we talked, but when we did, it was just, she was just that kind of person.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, grief is hard, loss is hard. Um, I think I've had to be kind of detached from it because as a social worker, you know, with foster kids and their abuse, you have to kind of take a step back and you can't really get too personally involved. So I think I learned to just kind of shut it off, um, even when it was for myself, you know. So it's
Do you
just,
think that was was beneficial for you, or
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure it was a coping mechanism. um, yeah, because I struggle, you know, I struggle with depression and anxiety most of my life. I have struggled with those things. And so I don't ever want to get back to where I feel like that all the time. But
Mhm.
the reality is the more you express it, the healthier it is, you know, really to express it is healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I just learned to separate it for so long in my work and everything else that I just shut it down with myself too. Um, but again, grief is just one of those things you really don't know how to handle it. You don't know how everybody else is going to handle it. Um, you know, I watched my poor mom just suffer with through my dad's illness. He was sick for so long, and I've watched her. And it sounds, you know, it may sound crazy to other people, but she had 6 dogs, and she's lost 4 in the last year, and she's got 2 more that are very sick. So I mean, she's heartbroken, and I mean, that just breaks my heart. So I feel like I need to be tougher to help her through, you know. Um,
Yeah, but then who's
so
going to be tough for you?
I don't know. Yeah. Me until I just lose it. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I mean, but that's just how it is. I don't know. I can't explain it. But I've had healthy grieving. I mean, I've done much better than I expected in dealing with it. And again, I think my grief over this has just kind of been an outpouring for several different situations too. You know, I finally felt like I could let it go. So it's been very, very therapeutic.
I was hoping when I took my leave from work, I took a 6-week leave, and
Wow.
I the main reason for my leave is I said I need to break.
Mhm.
I need this. I need my mind to know that this is real. I need
Oh,
it
yeah.
to happen so that I could try and put myself back together.
Yep.
Unfortunately, which probably sounds crazy, I never broke.
Right. Yeah.
And it might be weird that I'm like waiting for that time to come. Because I think once you break,
Mhm.
that helps you get yourself back together because there's you can't go down anymore.
Yeah, you can't. It's almost like you can't go any further. Have you studied Kubler-Ross and the different stages of grief and all of that?
Yeah,
I mean, there's, what is there? 6 stages. I should know this.
I think
I'm
there's
a social
5
worker, but
stages.
yeah. And so but we rotate between the stages all the
Yeah.
time. There can be a moment of acceptance, which is, the ultimate is acceptance, but um you can go back to denial at any point, and you can go back to anger, and you can go back to all of those stages just periodically. So just because you've gotten to the acceptance point doesn't mean that you've ultimately, you've reached the ultimate pinnacle of healing or grief,
Yeah,
because
no,
it's
1000% no.
yeah. So
Um, before you came on, I was looking through my phone at pictures, and I had a picture of her and my dad saved in my phone, and I just looked at it and I was like, how like this isn't real.
right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like you feel like she could just show back up any minute, or you're waiting for a
Yeah.
phone call, or you're waiting for, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not bad. I mean, but we do have to get to a point, and there's no specific time frame, but you do have to get to a point where you do handle it and you do deal with it. Because then it becomes complicated mourning, and then you get stuck in that complicated mourning and not being able to get out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where I've been. I mean, I don't know. That may be where I've been for a long time. Um,
'Cause
I don't know.
when things are bad, because
Yeah.
then you're just admitting, and it's a horrible feeling, and then you know it's just not a way you want to live. So
Yeah, it almost feels like a weakness, or yeah.
yeah, so the ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
most of the time,
Right.
like cool. But there are times like this where you're like, okay, like you really need to fully understand what's happening.
Right. Oh yeah. And I mean, that's why, the coping mechanism of denial is so powerful, and why it's so widely used, even subconsciously. If we don't admit it happened, then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so then we don't have to mourn it, we don't have to grieve it, we don't have to feel all the feelings. And people talk about coping mechanisms like they're a bad thing. um they're not always. I mean, they keep us alive, they keep us moving forward until we don't, until we break. And it doesn't have to be like this crazy breaking point. I mean, I think from what I've watched you go through, you've done it in a healthy way. You're processing it. It's not as though you've ignored it.
Mhm.
um you're reading the books, you're talking to the people, you're expressing the feelings. So I don't know that a break, like a breakdown is necessary, but it can be cathartic, but that may not be your process. I mean, that may not be what you need to do.
Yeah.
I did. Like I needed, I was just, it was a wailing almost. It was really hard.
Yeah.
Um, but I needed it. I hadn't done that in a very long time. So yes, it is very healing, very cathartic.
My coping mechanism has been food.
Food, yes, that's always
Sadly.
mine.
Because
Yep.
I just feel super empty inside. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, food will like fill me, but that has escalated and evolved into a different emotions,
Yep.
and those emotions have um, opened up a whole new set of
Oh yeah.
everything
Issues.
inside my head.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah, I know. And yeah, it's horrible.
yeah,
It's a cycle. Like it's just, you can't break it. You eat because you're depressed, and then you eat so
depressed
much
because you
that you're
ate.
depressed
Yeah,
because
it's
you
yeah,
because of how you look or feel or whatever. Yeah. It's a terrible cycle.
yeah. And I spoke with my old trainer last night, and I said, I'm ready. I said, I can't feel like this anymore.
It's hard.
It's only going to get worse.
Right.
And I just like feeling like this is exhausting.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And, I don't want to be exhausted anymore.
Yeah. I finally, December 21st, I finally said, I'm going to the doctor. I'm getting back on meds. And people will tell you it's a crutch. At 17, my best friend told me I wasn't saved because I needed an antidepressant. And that shit sticks in your head. It sticks in your head, and it creates these images of yourself that you're not good enough or whatever. You're not really strong enough or whatever. But I told him, I said, dude, you got to get me on something. I need help. I can't keep going like this. And a lot
And I
of it
think that
was
shows
focus.
more, I think that shows just how strong you are.
Yeah.
The strongest people are the ones that ask for help.
Yeah. And I did. I was like,
My
dude, I
opinion.
can't do it. I was like, I need meds. And I think he's really concerned about me because I was really at a place where I didn't think I could keep going. Like I definitely couldn't keep going the way I was going.
Yeah.
And he went so far as to ask me if I had a plan. I'm like, I don't have a plan, but I probably wouldn't be devastated or I don't think it would be terrible if I did die or whatever. And he was very concerned, but it has made a huge impact. Like it's helped me, my focus, I can pay attention at work better. I just feel better, all around better. So I'm glad I did it. Hopefully it won't be forever, but if it is, it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're there for. Like medicine is supposed to help you feel better.
Yeah.
You've strep throat.
Yeah.
Take medicine.
Exactly.
It's never going to go away.
Yeah. And the last time I did this is when I got on antidepressants to help me. And then I was able to have the energy to work out and to have the strength and the focus to watch my food. And I lost 100 pounds and then I gained it all back. And so I beat myself up, but I'm like, you know what? I can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is, so yeah, the weight is a hard thing to add to it. Like the weight and the unhealthy eating is one of those real complications, I think, to how we deal with stuff.
And I think I've said this before talking to someone else, I don't forget who, but when someone dies, that it just doesn't end with them dying. Like the whole dynamic of everything changes. And that's a lot for someone to go through.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it feels like to me like some people just forget that part.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so and so passed away. Okay, like that's the end of it. But that's just the beginning.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the memories, the pictures, like you said, you start going back through those photos, and her daughter asked us for pictures and stuff, and I had some funny ones, and then I had, and it was funny, it was hilarious. It was probably December or January, and we decided to go out trekking through the woods, and we we found a creek, a burnt bridge that was part of the history of that area. And she and I wanted to go take pictures on the bridge, but it was the other side of the creek. And so we pulled off our shoes and socks, rolled up our pants, and walked across the water. And it was freezing. Like, it was so cold. And she was hilarious. Like, the squeal that she gave when she stepped in the water. I mean, it was just, we were rolling. Like, we were rolling. It was so funny. And so I shared it with her daughter, but I watched it probably 15 times, just laughing at, how funny it was. But, and then I just bawled my eyes out because I knew I'd never have that opportunity to do that again.
Yeah.
That was hard. But I mean, it gets easier. And I'm sure there'll be rough days, but that's like with any loss, you remember that person, you grieve it, and then you move on.
When my sister passed, my friend passed away just a few days before.
Yeah.
And I remember going through my mental list of like who I have to call to tell them what happened. And I was like, oh, I have to call Stephanie to tell her what happened. And then I had to stop and like, and I was like, I can't believe that I can't call her. Then I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that I have to call her about what happened.
Yeah.
So even like times like that, when you're like, oh, I want to, but I can't.
Yeah.
That's just like them. I feel like that's just like them kind of like dying all over again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Yes,
grief
just
is like an
another-
ongoing process.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Loss after loss after loss with the same person. You experience that loss in many different ways,
Yeah.
I think that's why it was so cathartic for me to write that note to her, just to write the letter. And it flowed. Like, I didn't have to stop and think about anything I wrote. I just wrote it. And it felt good. I mean, it felt great.
I suggested the letter writing to my youngest sister. She's having a hard time. Her and Susie were like best friends. So she's having a really, really, really tough time. And I said, I think you need to just write her a letter.
Yeah.
Everything how you're feeling. You're angry, you're mad, you're sad, you miss her, you love her. I said, it's going to bring such a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do I do after? I said, you burn it. It's in the air, it goes away. It's just going to be so much healthier for you to move on. Because you can't live how you're feeling for the rest of your life. Like, that's just
you
live.
Yeah, you got to get to a different, even if it's just a little bit, you've got to get to a different stage. Because once you get stuck, it's so hard to get unstuck.
Yeah.
And that's with anything, but especially grief, it's so hard to get out of that and that's why I love, like, hospice programs. They offer support groups and stuff for a year after, usually 6 months to a year, and people don't take advantage of it.
Mhm.
But there's so many resources out there, so many good books.
And the books you guys sent me were very helpful.
Well, good. And that group, our little Zoom group has just been amazing, for everything. And it's funny because I'll have an issue and I'll be like, let me message the group, see what they say, so it's good to have people like that.
Yeah.
Because that's a group too, where you can just be who you want to be, and there's no facade, no pretending or faking or whatever. So it's important to have people like that.
100%. Because I know, I don't know about your situation, but I know that this has really shown me the people that I know I can depend on and count on.
Oh yeah.
And the people who I'm like, okay, like, they're not really.
Right. Well, but some people don't know how to approach it. Some people don't know how to deal with comforting people, and it's so bad because there's most of the time all I can do is say, I'm so sorry. Like, I am so sorry you're going through this. And I feel like an idiot because I don't have the words to help people get through it. And that's most of the people, most people really just don't know how to help people who are grieving.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, that's a hard thing to help people through. Because if you say I've been there, then it almost diminishes what they're going through. Or if, if you say, just say I'm sorry or I'm praying for you, it doesn't feel like enough. So they don't say anything because they don't know what the right thing to say is.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's
Um,
different. I would rather be annoyed by someone saying I'm sorry or like just checking in every so often
yeah.
than wondering why you aren't.
Yeah. Where are you at? Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. It's hard. I get it. Like
Yeah.
you're dealing with something like this. It can be uncomfortable. I understand, but
Yeah.
like
You still need it.
you're that kind of a friend,
Right.
not to say anything. Just be
Yeah.
like, I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
I like, or let's go for a walk. We don't need to talk. I just want you to know that I'm there. And I think that
Yeah. That's true.
the simplest things could mean so much
Oh, yeah.
rather than
Yeah. That's true.
why.
Right. No, and that's true. I mean, it doesn't take much
No.
to make you feel like somebody cares.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So maybe if there's no other lesson, a good lesson is just reach out, tell them you love them, and that you're thinking about them. That's true.
Yeah.
So don't cop out, use a cop out that it's uncomfortable, but do it regardless.
Yeah. Are you planning on staying in touch with her daughter?
Oh yeah, yeah. She's my cousin. She's super. She's one of those people, she'd give the shirt off her back, and yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch. Yeah, and I know she's going through it too. I can't imagine. If I lost my mama, ooh, Jesus, take the wheel. I just, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what I would do if I lost my mom.
Yeah.
That would be the hardest, probably one of the hardest loss. That and my children. I mean, I've always said I don't think I could live through if something happened to my kids. But you do. I mean, of course you do. You keep going regardless of how hard it is. But I don't want to. I don't want to know.
I mean,
I
I
don't
could
want to
give
find
you
out.
the experience of my parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I
Gosh.
it's
Yeah.
it is not easy. Obviously,
No.
but you know what I mean? It's like they're completely changed as people. Who they
Oh
were
yeah.
September 1st, they'll never be those people again.
No.
And
And then I know right now it looks hard and I know it, but I just keep thinking there's what you're doing with this is helping people, so you have taken it and turned it around to use it to help people. And had you not gone through this, as hard as it is, that's why I want people to tell their stories so desperately, is because our stories are there for a reason. I mean, we go
yeah.
through every single thing we go through for a reason. And while it may have felt really crappy at the time, I'm convinced that we go through it for a purpose, and it's all part of our purpose is to help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be able to walk through somebody through grief better than anybody else because you have felt it on the deepest, closest level.
Yeah.
And get in there and work out. I mean, every pound that pavement, whatever you got to do to get it out too. That's very therapeutic.
I've already reached out to people. I have my trainer on Friday. I went to the gym with a friend on Wednesday. I reached out to someone else about walking. So,
yeah,
I think I just needed to hit my sense of rock bottom
right.
to feel like it's time to get up.
Yeah.
Hurts.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
So.
you have to, as hard as it is. And I know some of the best healing I've done is walking. Baby, if I'm mad or I'm working through something, I get out there on that track by myself and I am blessing people out, or I'm praying, or I'm doing whatever, I mean, but that's maybe what you need to do
Yeah.
alone once a week, just to cuss everybody out or, talk to your sister, talk to your friend, whatever,
Yeah. Shockingly, I don't curse. You would have thought that like this whole thing was my cursing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm afraid
Really still?
to stop.
I
Maybe-
can imagine.
Internally, maybe in like my brain curses, but like I've never been like able to like vocally say it.
Oh my gosh. I am so ashamed. I am fluent. And that's one of my biggest struggles is I hate it. And that's what I always joked about with Barbara. I mean, I had a potty mouth, but she loved me anyway. And she'd be like, Amber, is there a different way you can say that? I'm like, yeah, there is, but I don't want to. It doesn't quite represent what I'm trying to say. But I mean, yeah, so it just, there's only certain people that you can tell all your secrets to and they still care about you. So
Yeah.
but I think it's completely okay to scream, to get out there on that by yourself and scream and cuss if you need to. You don't know. That might be what you I'm not advocating really vulgar
if someone
language.
heard if someone heard me cursing, they would know something was like
What's up? Yeah.
that was like at my break if I started cursing.
No, they'd be like, that's just Amber. It's just I feel so bad. I shouldn't say that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I learned that young. But I don't know, we're all different and we all handle it differently. But journaling is so helpful. Writing that note was so much better than I thought it would be. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought about it. I was like, man, I had just told Chrissy I'm probably not the best one to talk to you about grief. And then honestly, it was literally 2-3 days later, I found out about her and it just rocked my world.
If there's any advice that you would want to give someone who is dealing with grief of any sort, like what would you want them to know?
Just express it however is helpful for you. There's no one way to deal with grief. There's no right or wrong way to deal with grief. Find somebody to talk to, find an outlet, whatever your outlet is. If it takes medication, if it takes a therapist, if it takes exercise, whatever it is, you need to do it. Because if you don't address it, it just turns into complicated grieving and complicated mourning, and then turns into depression and everything else. And it's not healthy. So you've got to deal with it. You've got to express it. Yeah. And even that anger turns into depression if you don't deal with it. So, learn about the stages of grief. And there's so many resources out there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, find people, find your people.
I think that's the most important.
Yeah.
Is find your people, because they will be the ones to help you through it.
Oh, yeah. And we're hundreds of miles away from each other, but I hate the pandemic. Like I hate COVID. I've lost so many important people to COVID and it just blows my mind. But I'm so grateful for like the invention of this technology that I really didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
We use Teams every once in a while, but Zoom has like rocked my world, So now there's friends that literally I've never met in person, but they are my rock. They've become my rock and my friends and stuff. So I'm grateful. So even if they're hundreds of miles away, we can connect with people now like we've never been able to before. So
yeah, we should say that we've actually never met in person either.
Oh yeah. I was gonna be mad. What was it when we first started and people started talking about meeting each other because y'all live like a couple of states away? I was gonna throw down. Like if I have to drive to New Jersey or wherever because y'all finna meet, it's gonna go down. But but yeah, no, it's amazing.
Yeah.
That you can connect that way, with people that
Mhm.
you've really literally never met in person.
Yeah.
But this is the next best thing, I think. Um,
100%. Yeah.
but yeah, find your people, read if that's what helps you, write if that's what helps you, exercise, whatever it takes, do it. Um, but I'm proud of you because I've watched you and you've gone through some really hard stuff. And I mean, you're coming out on the other end, and you're using it to help people. And I think that's super important.
Thank you.
Super proud of you. Oh, my cat just fell off of my table.
It's okay.
She sneezed and then she just tumbled off the table. Bless her heart. But yeah, sorry about that. Just took something with her. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh, but no. But yeah, I'm glad you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to me.
Oh, you're welcome. No, thanks for inviting us. It's funny how life can change in just a matter of a couple of days. But it has been very helpful for me too, kind of processing it and being willing. So, but you know me, I'm an open book. So if you need any help, just reach out.
I will.
All right.
Hope
I
to
love
see you
you.
guys tonight. Love you too.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.